Mess up my hair in 4th grade? I will mess up yours for life. So in 4th grade, a buddy of mine decided that on Friday the 13th, he would mess up my hair while saying La Machine. He then explained that he had no choice because it was Friday the 13th. I can't say it bothered me, but I decided that I would find a way to do that to him on Friday the 13th from then on. We live states away from each other, and I will still contact one of his friends or wife or neighbor and ask them to mess up his hair on Friday the 13th. We're 52 now, and I still managed to get someone to mess up his hair every Friday the 13th. I've missed a few to his delight. The best one involved me calling his neighbors one at a time with numbers I found by Googling the names I found on the county's plat maps. I happened to find a guy that was going to a dinner party with my old friend that evening, had him mess up his hair mid-dinner party while saying La Machine. For English 2 says hi. Wonderfully petty. I love that on days you missed, he was probably wondering when it would happen the whole day. Got him looking under the bed and checking the closets at 11:59. This is awesome. You've inspired me to start a running joke with someone else. Plot twist, they haven't talked since the 4th grade, and OP is some kind of very vindictive psychopath. Lol. That's adorable. I agree. I keep picturing the look on his friend's face every time it happens. I can't say it bothered me, but I decided that I would find a way to do that to him on Friday the 13th from now on. Lamau, I love your villain origin story. This is the most lighthearted, petty revenge story I've read. It's fun and harmless and causes no actual harm. I came out of the grocery store and found a truck parked 1 inch from my driver's side door. So I park and walk into the grocery store for some essentials, and when I parked, there were no cars around me. I came back out to find a very large lifted Dodge parked next to me on my driver's side. As I approach my car, I see it. There is maybe an inch of clearance between this truck and my car as it is parked over the line in my spot. Rage is putting it lightly when I say I was upset. At this point, I climb into my passenger side and get into my seat. Backing out with the truck this close was even a pain. I had to fold in my mirror to not hit it. As I am backing out, my petty brain took over, readjusted my car and parked it so I could get out of my driver's side door. I grabbed a pen I had in the car and proceeded to let air out of the truck's passenger side tires. I can't tell you how satisfying it was to watch that overgrown penis mobile shrink to the ground one tire at a time. I did too because no one carries 2 spare tires and I figured they deserved the inconvenience. I got back in my car and left. Didn't get to see the aftermath, but I have enjoyed picturing it in my mind many times. I had something similar happen. I was coming out of a convenience store to watch a car pull in beside me, making it impossible for me to get in. I had about 6 inches clearance, so not super close, but no way was I getting in my car. I asked the guy as he got out, "Could you just pull back and let me in my car?" He gave a quick glance and said, "You can get in," brushing me off. I'm not a very confrontational person, so I decided I'd just have a cigarette and wait. Then I had an idea. I sat on the hood of his Beamer and just watched him through the massive plate glass windows of the store. After a moment, he noticed me and dropped what items he was going to buy and came outside hurriedly and moved so I can get in my car and leave. I got blocked in before. After my initial rage, I called my friend who lived nearby with the 4x4 to come help out. I wrapped a rope around their axle and dragged their car and left it in a $1,000 fine, no parking area. No idea what the outcome was, as I was then free to leave and continue my life. Removing the valve stems and chucking them across the parking lot would have been sweeter. Once, I removed the windshield wipers from a car that was easily doing 50 miles per hour down a residential alley, nearly hitting a woman walking her dog. Just the rubber part. It comes out so quickly and easily, I think they really deserve it. Man, I was thinking you were gonna pull back in on the other side and do the same thing to him, then go hang out in the store for a while. Pro tip, valve caps are shaped so that all you have to do is flip them over, and the dome top will push the pin perfectly to deflate the tire. I want to sit here and judge you, but I can't, because I've done similar. High five. Enjoy the sandwich. There's a white BMW X7 that I see nearly every day speeding in a school zone. It's 15-mile-per-hour zone, where the lights are flashing, before and after school starts. I have to cross 2 crosswalks to get to my son's school. Sure enough, as I was walking across the crosswalk, here comes the middle-aged woman in the BMW hauling ass. I was holding a half-eaten PB&J. She wasn't going to stop, so I stepped back and I threw my sandwich at the side of her car. Peanut butter smeared across the gleaming white paint. She didn't stop and kept speeding. I wish I could have seen her face when she noticed the PB streak. Milkshake at the windscreen will work too. Even better, the milk will run down the air vent and go sour if it's not cleared out straight away. Keep a camera handy and post video on Nextdoor. Someone will know who this is. If she does that every school day at the same time, call the police and report it. And ask for an officer to stay there when she comes by so he can tag her. She's a hazard to everyone who crosses the road. Second story I've seen in this sub of BMW drivers with attitude in less than a week. I'm starting to think BMW makes people have an a-hole attitude. Not all. Get a crossing guard. Give kids washable markers. Have the crossing guard stop the BMW lady and have the kids all at once go right all over her car. I agree with some of the comments. If the police aren't willing to step up and make sure children are safe, then please get a hold of any media outlet and tell them about it. If that doesn't help, start a TikTok and YouTube account throw all these videos up so the public takes more notice of it and pressures the police or driver themselves to do better. I bet the cops would love to ticket a speeding BMW. Just one little tip-off could really ruin her day while brightening the day of a random patrol officer. The revenge of the books. My high school librarian was disliked by almost the entire student body. She was constantly yelling and shushing. She gave millions of after-school detentions for what she considered to be a rule infraction. I'll give just one example. Otherwise, I could write a term paper on the crap she used to pull. There were no talking signs everywhere. Students could study together only as long as they were silent. If they needed to talk to each other in order to study, they should do so during study hall, since that's what study halls are for. She would sneak up on them and hand out detentions for talking, even though they could not be heard more than 5 feet away. Every year, the library club would start out with a good crew, but she treated them as her personal slaves. By the end of my senior year, there were no library aides reporting for duty. The librarian took off the last 3 days of the week before finals week because her sister had a baby. News spread fast, and during that time, over 400 students out of 2,000 went to the library, staffed by the assistant librarians, and signed out the maximum 5 books. Here is the revenge. During finals week, every one of those students obeyed the signs on the walls in the hallways and returned their library books. There was a cart to put returns into, but that filled quickly, and we had no choice but to stack them on the counter, and then on the floor around the counter when that filled up, and then a second row past the counter, and a third. Stacks of books up to 5 feet high surrounded the book checkout return counter. She had to make a path by moving books so she could get to her seat behind the counter, and then clear books off the counter since they were stacked higher than her head. Each book had to be manually checked back in using a rubber stamp and then restocked on the proper shelf, in the proper numerical sequence. There was no computer for that back then. We had card catalog cabinets stuffed with, well, cards. The assistant librarians were both 10-month employees and called in sick the rest of finals week. They had the rest of the summer off, leaving the poor librarian to clean up the mess. That is a great prank. And there was no poor librarian. She was a meanie, and she deserved it. Do we know what happened next? Maybe she turned over a new leaf. We had a librarian like that at my high school. She'd throw people out of the library for studying. One year during final exam week, a bunch of seniors brought alarm clocks to school and scattered them throughout the library, well hidden among the shelves, and set them to go off every 10 to 15 minutes until we ran out of alarm clocks. She had a busy day. Awesome petty revenge. I would have loved to see her face when she saw all the books and had to manually check in every one of them. Lol. A barmaid laughed at my drink order. I was on holiday with my son, 14, and we were watching the football in a bar in the evening. I don't really drink, but I do enjoy a cocktail while on holiday. The server came by and asked if we wanted drinks. I asked for a pina colada, and she laughed a little bit at the order and kind of laughed out and, okay, then walked off to make it. This annoyed me a little. I'm just a grown man wanting to drink a tasty cocktail. What's wrong with that? When she brought me the drink back, I got my petty revenge. As she was placing the drink on the table, I said, "My mom loved these. God rest her. I always have one on the anniversary of her death to remember her." She looked horrified and tried to shuffle off quickly, so I asked her for a cocktail stirrer, so she had to come back again. When she came back, I took a sip from the straw, kissed my hand, and pointed to the sky, trying to look sad. She was so visibly uncomfortable, I had to stifle my own laughs. She noticeably avoided our table multiple times after this. Wait, Dad, Grandma died? No, Junior, we took her to the farm to play with Grandpa. My younger brother is a big guy. I mean big. He has a shaved head, many tattoos, swears like a sailor, and looks pretty scary. He also really likes a cocktail. So years ago, too many, he took me out for my 30th birthday. We had a lovely meal and then went to sit at the bar. They had a limited time seasonal cocktail called a pear drop. Can't even remember what was in it, but they were bloody good. We were both wankered by the time we left. He's not remotely bothered or ashamed by what others might think. Enjoy your cocktail, guys. Life is far too short. Also, fair play to you, OP. That was a stunning slapback. Plus, you taught your son a valuable lesson on how to deal with jerky people. No need to get loud and yell at someone, just embarrass the crap out of them. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you like shaming your servers, cause they're being a pain. I got my 6th grade bully fired and his girlfriend to break up with him. When I was in 6th grade, I was being bullied by this boy in my grade. We'll call him Tom. He bullied me every day, especially during PE. I remember thinking about how I was going to enact my revenge on him one day. Well, fast forward to 10 years later, I'm working at a popular lunch spot and my manager asked me about hiring this new guy named Tom. I knew it was him, and I gave him a bad recommendation, but that wasn't the end of it because he still got hired. I found out that Tom had a girlfriend who he was trying to keep a secret. Anyways, one of my coworkers, who happened to be the niece of the owner, tells me that she has a big crush on Tom and that they had sex the other night. I say to her, "That's crazy. Did you know about his girlfriend?" To say she was shocked was an understatement. My coworker immediately asked me for the girlfriend's Facebook information, which I eagerly gave to her. She writes up a beautiful Facebook message to Tom's girlfriend, telling her everything that had happened between them the night before. And then, after that, she goes home and tells the owner about what a slimeball Tom truly was. Tom got fired like a week later and his girlfriend broke up with him. Haha. Moral of the story, Don't be Tom. Tomfoolery. You know what? Even if he wasn't a childhood bully, nailing a cheater, not like that, is pretty cathartic. The fact that you two had history is icing on the cake. Well played. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Damn, that ice cold revenge. Well, normally I would not advocate revenge after that long of a time period, because then it just looks stupid. But in this case, he had it coming, because of his current and recent actions involving the boss's niece. This never happened. I'm convinced like 95% of Reddit stories are made up, written by 13-year-olds fantasizing about how they think the adult world goes. An egocentric actress was mean to me at a party, so I told her I was a movie producer before leaving. I was at an event in Paris years ago, a kind of party for creative people. I was alone, and I'm a pretty shy person, but I like to speak with new people. It was a sitting dinner, and I was sitting next to a woman who was extremely loud and egocentric, telling everyone in the room she was an actress looking for work. Even if I was sitting next to her, she never even turned her face in my direction, always speaking to people on the other side of the room. Every time there was a single silence and I had the opportunity to talk to someone near me, she loudly spoke over me about who she needs to meet a movie producer. I was having a horrible evening. I can't stand people like that. I decided to leave early and go back home. I stood up and said, well, I need to wake up early tomorrow. Goodbye, guys. After more than 1 hour of ignoring me sitting next to her, she heard me and asked, ha, okay, bye dude. By the way, what's your job? And I told her, I'm a movie producer. Good night. I saw she was dead inside, and she tried to stand up and speak to me, but I left quick with a smile on my face. Why couldn't you make me an architect? You know I've always wanted to pretend to be an architect. George Costanza. I was at a party once, and there was a locally famous stand-up comedian there with his date. She was disinterested in being there. It was plain to see. Well, he was getting drunker and drunker and was offending everyone. And when he came around to me, he asked what I did. I told him I was a comedy promoter from back east, and I was in town scouting local talent. In fact, I'm an electrician. This dude kissed my ass all night long. I let him on all night, then walked out the door. It was the perfect way to knock him down in a few pegs. And he forgot about his main goal, which was insulting everyone at the party. His date also left without him. That's what she deserved. I really wish to see her expression. Networking pro tip. It's always about showing an interest in other people. It's never about shamelessly promoting your own interests. A shy producer and her falling for the remark. That's more like a wannabe actress than a real one. Good thing you did that. Are you actually a movie producer? That wasn't clear. I was a producer at that time. Actually, 99% of people in the room were not related to movies or TV shows, like artists, designers, painters, etc. So I was maybe the only person capable of giving her a job. Too bad for her. Why would someone say bye and then ask your profession as you're walking out? Because OP is a terrible fiction writer. Lol, why would they randomly say, by the way, what's your job? After not saying a word to you the entire night. Bad fake story. Did everyone stand and clap too? Coworker gloated about having access to the airport lounge when we didn't. I told him the wrong gate. We work for a national agricultural supply company, but I am in a central role while he flies frequently and therefore has lounge access with the airline. We are flying from one city back to our town. He was bragging about it the whole day. When we got to the airport, he wished us peasants a nice time in the airport food court, slumming it with the mouth breathers and so on. He'd bruise his own tonsils if he could. That kid of bloke. Anyway, our flight nears and he texts us asking what gate it is. The rest of us were walking down the sky bridge onto the plane at this point. Now, this airport isn't exactly small, it's actually massive. We were getting on gate 4. And I told him we were at gate 44. We're laughing on the plane, imagining this bloke having to run through the terminal to catch it. Next minute, the frickin' doors on the plane lock and we're getting pushed back. That's when I thought I was fricked. He'd complain and the boss would throw the books at me. He texts, hey, where are you guys? And I told him we're taxiing down the runway and that we tried holding the plane for him and the bloke just frickin' explodes. I put my phone on airplane mode and breathe out. When we land, he's blown up my phone and I've got a missed call from my boss. I call my boss back and say I accidentally pushed 4 twice and he just laughed and reckons he would have paid big money to see old mate's meltdown. Anyway, it ruined his day. He had to pay his own ticket home and now I think my life is in danger. Lol. Edit. Oh man, I've explained this poorly and it's full of typos. Sorry guys, I don't know why he didn't look at the board for his ticket. I don't know why he asked me what gate. He asked and I told him a lie because he's a boorish C-word. Too lazy to look up at one of the screens all over the airport to find the gate number. He can't blame anyone but himself. For someone who travels enough to have lounge access, you would think that they would have the airline app on their phone for the boarding pass gate number and boarding time. Gold. Whoops, fat finger mistake. Also, just putting this out there, as someone with an airline status, lounges are really not that big of a deal. Who doesn't look up at their gate number and relies on someone else to give them that information? Lol. Don't sweat it, he has enough points for a flight home. He must be real dumb because we used to call the lounge to remind them to page people we're waiting for. Thief stole my phone. Now his friends get spam. A few days ago, my phone was stolen. However, since I live very far from my carrier's local store, didn't have a phone to call them from, and my phone is my primary internet at home, it took me a couple days to get in touch with them. In the meantime, the thief removed my SIM from my phone and put it in his own phone, which he was using to sell drugs and stolen property. I went to my carrier and shot him down. I got the IMEI of my phone blacklisted, as well as the one he put my SIM in. Then I logged into my carrier's account and looked at all the outgoing calls he placed. I found 13 different numbers he dialed. Now all of his friends are getting signed up for SMS spam from the Republican Party, Democratic Party, Libertarian Party, as well as numerous individual campaigns. Any other suggestions? Do the Scientologists send SMS spams? I think religious stuff might be really annoying. Note, I offered to hand over the logs to my local police department, but they weren't interested. Edit, I've been in touch with some of these jerks, as they returned some of his calls after I got my new SIM in my spare phone. They really are scum. Yes, Scientologists will follow them for life. They can change numbers, move, basically anything but die, and they'll hunt them down. A place for mom. They do not let up. I put an ad in the local classifieds claiming to be a massage therapist. Students that needed practice hours offering free massages to those willing to help. Yeah, my ex did me dirty and definitely deserved it. Maybe they would be interested in military service. Those recruiters will never leave them alone. You can also post some awesome stuff you are giving away on Craigslist with a phone number to call to schedule pickup. Mormon and Catholic Church. For hymns can be a good retail option. Some local police departments have update SMS services too. Dang, sign them up for the Jehovah's Witnesses. I can only find a form on their site for email newsletters. Do you know where I can find the SMS? Coworker didn't like how my food smelled, so I cooked something stinkier. Happened 8 or so years ago. I ate my lunch at my desk because I was pretty busy. It was ethnic, meaning rice and adobo, a kind of stew. We work in cubicles, and the woman in the cube next to me leans over and makes a dramatic gag. What are you eating? I'm pretty busy, and I don't really like this person, so I just say, my lunch. Well, it's disgusting. I shouldn't have to smell that. Eat in the kitchen. I replied with something along the lines of, let me finish it then, so it doesn't stink anymore. She stomps to HR to report me and get me to stop eating at my desk, but company culture means everyone does it. HR does it. My boss, the VP, does it. She herself does it, with food that smells just as much. Her demands are slapped down and she goes back to her desk fuming. Next day, I have my wife cook me the most pungent, aromatic, and spiciest curry she knows how to cook, and let it sit there untouched for an hour to make sure the smell covers the entire section of the office. All she could do was glare and hold her breath. Delicious. One of my coworkers had the worst food, so bloody smelly, and she would bring in a freaking George Foreman grill to cook food. So I brought salmon and heated it up in the microwave. Ended that war right there and then. She never did that again. How is adobo smelly? OMG. I've never smelled any bad adobo in my entire life. It's not even meant to be a smelly dish at all. She just doesn't know what spices are. That woman's life is so sad. Maybe I'm in the minority, but my neighbors are Middle Eastern. They cook curry in the kitchen and they have it in their garage with the doors wide open. It has me drooling. You are not in the minority. Curry's the best. I always try to make friends with the Indian people because their food is so good and they love to share. Honestly, I can't stand people eating at their office regardless of what they're eating. Food shouldn't be allowed on the work floor, IMO. I had a coworker who seemed to take over the entire staff room with her food stuff, literally taking up half the fridge with her prepped lunches for the week. She also boiled eggs for her breakfast in the tea kettle. Ugh. I prevented a former friend from adopting a kitten. Kylie and I became friends when I moved to the city for college. I used the term friends loosely. I was still young and ignorant, and had yet to learn that nice is not synonymous with kind. The friendship officially ended when she was promoted at work. At the celebratory dinner with our friend group, she announced that she wouldn't be able to spend time with us going forward. Being promoted meant she had to spend more time with important people. A few people laughed, but she reiterated, I'm not joking, I like you guys, but I'm very important now. I can't keep associating with people I knew from college. I wasn't disappointed, and this gave me a convenient, questions-free exit. After graduation, Kylie's parents bought her a condo. She adopted a kitten and had it declawed because her furniture is more important and declawing doesn't hurt cats. She eventually dropped the cat off with her parents for 2 reasons. In her own words, she is very important and needs to network more. And now that she worked hard for her degree in home ownership, she wanted a spouse. Nobody wants to date a woman with cats, so Etta, the cat, has to live with my parents. It's not a big deal. Cats aren't smart anyways. She won't even remember me. Not even a year later, a friend who hate follows her on social media saw a post. Kylie found the perfect new addition to the family. She and her boyfriend love cats, so they submitted an application for a kitten at a local rescue. I called the rescue during my lunch break and gave them information I had, that she declaws her cats and rehomed her previous one because it didn't fit with her lifestyle. I said that I could not, in good conscience, have this knowledge and at least let them know. Kylie didn't end up getting the kitten, nor any other kitten from that rescue. I am realistic, so I can imagine her next steps. At least, I know I thwarted this attempt. This isn't petty, TBH. You saved an animal from a possibly awful thing, or more than one. Declawing and being abandoned, probably a certain level of neglect while in her care, too. Sheltered animals go through enough. Thank you. Actually, you prevented a monster from maiming an animal. Well done. Too Fat Cat, who has all of his scalpel sharp claws, says thank you. I'm not very big on most petty revenge stories, but whoa. Declawing a cat is the same as having our fingers cut off to the first knuckle. This girl should never be allowed to adopt a pet. I hope this shelter shares this information with the tri-state area. Can you share her information on a shelter's Facebook page? Declawing cats should be illegal worldwide. Grocery store Karen. This was years ago when I had a 22 caliber brain and a 50 caliber mouth. I was at a grocery store with 2 items. I went to the customer service desk, which had a sign that said 5 items or less. Just as I was approaching the counter, a Karen ducked in front of me with a basket that had 12 to 15 items, and she started unloading it on the counter. I looked at the cashier, pointed at the sign, held up my hand with my fingers spread out, and gestured as a question. She looked at me, shrugged as if she couldn't do anything about it. So I said to the Karen, "You must be a natural blonde." She replied, "I am. How did you know?" I pointed at the sign, "Because you can't count to 5. Oh, was she mad? She paid and got out of there in a blur. Afterward, the cashier was grinning. I said, "You probably aren't allowed to say anything, but I can." Got her hopes all up, waiting for a compliment, and then trashed her like last night's garbage. Creative insult that was 100% warranted. Remind me of one of my favorites. Guy goes into the bar, and as he drinks his beer, says to the bartender, "Would you like to hear a blonde joke?" Bartender looks at him, points at his own scalp and says, "I'm blonde," then points at 2 guys playing pool, says that they're both blonde, and then to the bouncer at the door, and he's blonde too. "Are you sure you want to tell that joke?" So the guy looks around at them one by one and says, "Nah, I'd have to repeat it 4 times. I crack blonde jokes all the time. My blonde daughter used to get aggravated. So one day I grew my hair out so she saw I was a lighter blonde than her. Now she plays aggravated when I tease her with blonde jokes at the checkout, but laughs later. I don't understand why cashiers in some place are not allowed to enforce rules. I've been in supermarkets where the cashiers could just tell customers, "Sorry," point to the sign and send them away. Everybody was happier. You can't make a queue of customers upset just to accommodate a single rule-breaking one. It's bad for the store. On behalf of all customer service workers everywhere, thank you. And thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. You get notified every time this channel uploads. Again, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.